Hi, my name's Tony Sharples and welcome to Old Dog New Tricks. I wanted to talk a little bit today about monetization because it's a thing that comes up quite regularly when I talk to people about my site and what I'm doing. And I think one of the important things to keep in mind when you're thinking about monetization is that really it's not about being an overnight sensation. I mean, I very much see this as a long-term play, and I think that's the reality of the internet these days. You see all these stories of people who are social media mavens and become like amazing influencers with millions of followers overnight. But I think that is the outlier rather than the norm for what goes on. And you know, it's a little bit like reality TV. I mean, reality TV can mean that you'll get your 15 minutes of fame and you'll be all over the place and things like that. But the reality is that for most of us, becoming a reality TV star or becoming some viral sensation on the internet is about as likely as winning a lottery. You do also, I think you see a lot of people out there who are perceived to be overnight sensations, but really I find more and more that if you look behind the scenes, you find that most of those internet sensations, and even the young ones, have been online and working at it for years and years and years, and they've really focused on building a body of work first to then leverage it later on, and that's very much the game that I'm playing. And I think with most people that go online as well, I think you really have to treat it as a long tail or long-term play, and unless you're going to be that overnight sensation with millions of subscribers and followers and things like that, which is once again relatively unlikely, you have to treat it monetization from the perspective of I'm going to build it down the track. And I think it's one of the best things I've seen Gary Vaynerchuk talk about, where he talks about, you know, give your content out, get it out there. Don't be immediately asking for money and feedback and all of that sort of stuff straight away, because if you stick at it and if you build a good sort of body of work in the process of doing that, that revenue will come down the track. And I think also from a long tail perspective, the important thing about monetization for most people that are going to go online is that it's not about making revenue today off Facebook campaigns or Google AdWords and things like that. It's about building a body of work over time, and then say in a year's time someone will come and look at a piece of content, and by the time you've built that body of work, then you can attach monetization to it through AdSense or YouTube and Instagram and things like that. But you've built a body of work. So the great thing there is that if someone looks at a piece of copy in a year and you've spent a year really building a great body of work, then you've got that huge back catalogue of work that they can go back through and look at. And you've already invested the time and the effort into that. And it's that time down the track that you're going to reap the results. I think the other thing, and this is another thing that Gary Vaynerchuk talks about a lot, is you can't just focus on the fact that your monetization is going to come from views and pay-per-click and things like that. I'm looking at it, for example, in terms of I'm hoping down the track to build a body of work that gets enough subscribers and views and things like that to be generating a decent base level of income. But really where I see that I'll make income from what I'm doing down the track is more so from things like online training courses, going into companies or businesses and helping them with building their digital brand and digital identity, maybe with referrals and things like books and things like that. So that's where I more so see the income of this coming from, rather than just pay-per-click and AdSense type of revenue. And that's quite relevant for me right now because I'm really thinking about Google AdSense, which I've activated on the site. And I did it initially, for me, as a bit of a learning exercise in terms of understanding how you set AdSense up, how you track it and things like that. And I've made this decision now to actually take AdSense off my site because I really think from both a strategic and a timing perspective, it's not the right thing for me to be doing right now. It's more so something that I should be doing down the track when I've built a sufficient level of content that I have enough traffic flowing through the site to then look at monetizing it via AdSense, YouTube, Instagram and things like that. I think the other thing with AdSense is that I'd originally done it to understand the process of going through and setting up and tracking AdSense. And look, the reality is Google have done a great job with AdSense and it's really easy to understand. So I think just about anyone going into AdSense, they can go to the site, they can activate it, they can set it up, they can track it, and they can trial and error to learn how best to use it. So for me, I don't see it really as an essential thing right now. And the price that I'm paying is I'm having ads that are sort of messing up the site when I really should be focusing on the quality of the content rather than the ad revenue part of it. And the other thing is I am finding some difficulties sometimes with content loading on the site, and I do notice down the bottom of the page that it's things like double click, server issues and things like that, where it's the pulling up of the ad is actually stopping content from loading on the page. Initially I thought it was a problem with images and videos and things like that, but after looking at it a lot, I've really brought it down to that being the core issue. So my main point here is I think when you look at monetization, and it's probably the first thing that most people are going to ask you about a site or a store or things like that, is you have to decide on the strategy and also you have to decide on the timing of the best way to do it. And really, if you look at it, I mean, going forward, I suppose there are really two ways of looking at monetization. One is from a, make money from clicks and views type of thing. But really, unless you are that YouTube or Instagram or viral overnight sensation, it's very, very difficult for most of us to get out there and suddenly be at 1 million subscribers and 100,000 followers and stuff like that to make that a viable area. So as I said, think about strategy and think about timing of when you want that revenue to come in. I also think from an online shopping perspective, you really need to put time and effort into planning strategy, product selection, pricing, but most importantly, you need to understand how these marketplaces work and how all of the competitors actually operate on those marketplace e-commerce sites. Because the reality is, unless you are into selling a product that is so unique that it doesn't exist before, the reality is you are going to find that there are an awful lot of people out there that have been selling similar products to what you're selling, and they've been selling it for a long time. So they've got ranking, they've got sales volume, they've got reviews and all of those sorts of things that will put them ahead of you. So I think once again, even in the e-commerce space, it is an outlier thing for people to go online, start selling something, and then whoosh, suddenly they're doing $4 million a year and things like that. So yeah, so that's, I thought it would be good to give some perspective on how I'm looking at monetization on Old Dog New Tricks, and perhaps give some thoughts on how you should be looking at how you approach monetization moving forward. Okay, so I hope that was useful, and I'll see you next time.